Welcome back to the Spiritual Sisters podcast, where Nicole, Christine, and Gabrielle Celeste discuss all things spiritual and woo-woo beyond. I am Michelle Larson, back for a take 2 on all things ETs and galactic stories, and I will share my abduction stories.
Yay! Welcome back, Michelle.
Yay. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, guys. So if you haven't already listened to episode 19, listen to that first just to get your introduction to Michelle. And we did say that we wanted to have her come back. And so that was already planned. It was just going to be spaced out a little bit, but we were so excited that we didn't want to space it out. So you guys are getting both of her episodes today. So episode 19 and then episode 20. And a little fun fact about episode 20 in general for podcasts is 90% of podcasts don't make it past 20 episodes. So yay us.
Yay,
we're doing good.
Hey.
Which is kind of crazy when I heard that stat because there's like so many podcasts. So imagine how many more there could be, but something happens that at 20, it's like not a thing anymore. I get it. It's a lot of work, but it's fun.
It is fun. I was thinking about that too yesterday because my new thing is like the Gene Keys, and I was looking for podcasts on that. And there was this one podcast, and she only recorded for 2 years, but I was like, this is such a good podcast. And then she just kind of literally went MIA. And I just wonder, I'm like, how do these platforms go about like clearing out old podcasts? Like once they decide to stop, do they just leave them on there for listen for eternity? Like the things that go through my mind.
I think so, unless you remove them yourself. But I mean, if you already did the work, I feel like I would want to leave it out. But anyway, that's neither here nor there because we're 20 in and we're not going anywhere yet, right?
Woo! Which is good.
Anywhere.
Right, Gabby?
Right.
Validate me. Okay.
I am validating. We are around. And even when you get burnt out on the editing, we're going to outsource that because we're going to continue this. Because I'm having a lot of good time. A really good time.
Yeah, same. Okay, Michelle. So you're part of our awesome statistic. Yay. Thank you for getting us to episode 20.
Thank you. It's just
okay. Where are we going to start? I feel like, where do you want to start? Because we're doing all alien stuff. So I think our plan was to talk about kind of like continuation from the last one. We also, go ahead.
Just preface this by saying that to our listeners out there, we want to provide you with different perspectives and to encourage.
Oh, we're going to get weird today, guys.
Exactly. So I just want to say, keep an open mind because this is very much truth to our good friend Michelle. And we know people that have been abducted. And so, just keep an open mind, listen to them, what they got to say, because that might cause you just to look at things a little bit differently for the better.
Here's the thing. I think that the people that listen are probably already pretty open-minded. Yeah. You almost have to be, right? I think maybe to an extent, some people are very skeptical, like me, right? I mean, we've talked about that before. We spoke about that last time. So I think most people are probably pretty open-minded. Yeah. And even though some of these things are harder to wrap our brains around, like I still very much believe these things, but my tiny little brain, it struggles, right? My tiny little brain is like, I don't know. But like, there's no way that I think that we're the only people in this whole galaxy. Like, it's crazy. So I think everybody has an open mind. But we're going to go into it, guys, and it's going to be so much fun. We're going to get so weird and so woo today. And I'm like so excited. I'm so excited. So we had said we would talk about
Michelle,
like
thank
Galactic.
You for being so brave, by the way.
I know.
Thank you.
And whatever you don't want to share, don't share it. Like, don't feel pressure to do that. We had wanted to talk about Galactic Federation, and then Gabby keeps talking about soft disclosure, and I still kind of don't know what that means. So we had that, and then if you wanted to talk about any of your stories, feel free. If you don't, that's okay. So just take it away, girl.
Yeah. Well, thank you to all the listeners for even just having an open mind, or even like, I think the biggest like missing in a big chunk of our society is no one's willing to just have a conversation with things that they don't know or disagree with. So it's like, it's not like, hey, we're projecting our beliefs onto you, but it's just kind of like, here's the thing that's happened, and like, let's go from there. And all to say, it's like, I think the more, I know that a lot of people want to kind of stay with their head in the sands on a lot of this, or really like be unaware. They're like, blissful ignorance is the best. And I would highly disagree, because the more that I learn about this, the more empowered I feel. And that's really where you want to be, is empowered, not ignorant, in my experience and in my opinion. And then it gives you tools to do something with it. So it's even like, I see it in kids all the time. Granted, I have been someone who was abducted. I work with ETs. I work with star seeds. Like, it's just going to happen with my spiritual practice. So I know that I call in those people who have these experiences, or I've worked with moms who have kids, and I'm like, oh, at 3, 5, and 11, like, they had abductions, and they're like, he just turned 11 3 weeks ago. And I was like, ooh, didn't realize I dropped a bomb there. But then it's like, okay, as much as that's super scary, then how can we like protect them or teach them that spiritual like sovereignty? Like, we are divinely sovereign in, our sovereign divinity, right? It's like that's a whole rabbit hole. That could be a whole other episode. And all to say, so I'm trying to think of like how is best to start with this, but that's really like what I'd want to say for the first type of thing, is like, to not know anything about it is okay. But when it starts to kind of come into your wheelhouse, then to be ignorant around it is not going to serve you, because you won't know what to do. And you're just a victim to your happenstance. What do you guys feel like? Do you want like stories first? Do you want history? Like,
I'm kind of wondering, okay, so before we even go into that, I know I was looking it up. That's why I was listening, but my eyes weren't on you. I'm sorry. But I was trying to look up, because, okay, so space is infinite, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's no end, at least as far as we know, in space. And I was looking it up, and I think it says that the observable universe is 92 billion light years in diameter. That sounds really big. And we're just, that's the universe, right? So how many galaxies are there just within the universe, right? Like the Milky Way is one, that's our galaxy. But how many are there? Do you know?
I actually don't know that stat. That would be fascinating to know, but I know that there are more universes than exist in just our own.
Okay.
Like,
as of 2020. So this is why, guys, like the idea that like when people want to say aliens don't exist, like, okay. In 2020, it was estimated that there were around 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. That's just what we can see. And each galaxy ranges from, they said, 10,000 light years to hundreds of light years. Now, the Milky Way is considered, they said, an average size galaxy. And it has at least 100 billion planets. We're just one planet. We are just one planet in this one universe out of, what did I say? 2 trillion, in galaxies. So one planet in one universe in one galaxy. So when I hear those numbers, my mind is like my mind can't even comprehend that, right? Like our little minds just can't even fathom that.
We're a grain of sand on like Newport
on the
beach,
beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, in just our universe, right? Like that's not the whole ocean.
Yeah. So one planet in one galaxy. In our galaxy, we have 100 billion planets in just our Milky Way galaxy. And then outside of the Milky Way, there's 2 trillion more. So anyway, guys, wrap your brains around that and just keep that in mind as we're talking about these things and listening to these stories, because if you think that we're the only ones, Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. ...
Yeah, which
it kind of ...
it kind of brings me to think of or to start the share with like Earth in and of itself. So Earth is a very, very unique planet. It's a very there's many other like 3D density planets that exist like in the universe, greater universes beyond. And it's like we're this big melting pot. So you may go to other let's just work inside this universe. You might go to another galaxy in this universe and find another 3D planet, but maybe it's only inhabited by like one greater species, perhaps. But what we have here on Earth is like this huge melting pot. It's almost like our galactic history, so to speak, would be like if we go back to like the Anunnaki, which are like gigantic ETs that came here first and almost like enslaved humanity to work for them or use them. They're kind of like the way we treat cattle. So it's almost like we have them, you're living beings, but you don't really matter that much. And then they have like this debt to pay back to all of humanity from like kind of misusing us and not really like doing the right things. And, they're kind of like, okay, we owe you something. And then you have like, I don't know exactly when. I've seen it shown from a few different things. And the one caveat I'll say to most galactic history is that it's like one person's or one entity's or one collective's like view of a time snap or a time shot or whatever I'm trying to say, a snapshot. There we go. A snapshot of time. And so like if we were to even go to like, let's go to like our culture and we were to ask like people about what's a good 9/11. The people in the towers have a different story than the people on the streets, that have a different story than the people on the plane, that have a different story than people in the White House and the Pentagon. And like, and then you take that to like the war that started after that. Every version of that story, though it be very true for those individuals, is different. And it's very interesting when you start to kind of break down things where you're like, we all watched the same event happen, but we have very different stories about it. So I'll say that's one thing that I see a lot of people in this like galactic history or that work with starseeds or ETs, they get kind of like nasty and at each other's throats, but like, that's not how this was. And that's not how this was. And it's so like, there's a lot of like, you must not be legit because that's not how I was told it happened. And it's like, that's just like one perspective, one opinion about it, or one person's perspective, vantage point that they saw that occur. So that's one thing I'll say that's definitely helped me inside of like just feeling more aligned to share any of this, because I've been really scared to share this where I'm like, oh, like people are going to jump all over me because it's not like what they saw. And I'm like, oh, that's the beauty of it. It's like we all have different perspectives and we carry different sides.
But there's almost a part of you, because you are so in it, that you're damned if you don't share this, because you know that that's part of your truth, because you have such a contact and you are such a key figure in this conversation, and you will be in the years to come. And I want to go to Nicole because I feel like she has something to say, but I really want to talk about the Galactic War based off of everything you said, because that was like a ding for me when you brought that up.
And I don't want to spend too much time on this question, but I wonder, Michelle, are there any like placements in your birth chart that allude to maybe like your connection to this type of this topic, or to maybe even like abduction, just anything? So for example, like I don't know if I mentioned it in the last episode, but somebody had asked me about a certain placement in my chart and how it meant that I was maybe here clearing karma from Atlantis and Lemuria. So I'm just wondering, so do you know, are there any placements, or is that even a thing in birth charts as far as this topic and this discussion? And we don't have to spend too much time because I want to hear the good stuff about soft disclosure, Galactic Federation, whatever you want to share. Is that a thing though?
I will refer to Gabby, but I think that it is. And I've had a few. This was like, before I met the Gabrielle Celeste. So I will say it was like a different astrologer. I did love her, but now I'll just always use Gabby. And like she had said like, oh, there was something about like, because when when I kind of resurfaced in this world and we started having like those weird experiences in our old house, so this would be like 2015 for me, she was like, oh, like you had a serious activation of your alien DNA. And then like this was 2 years ago, I think I had like, like a birthday reading of like, what's your next year? And she's like, oh, you're going to have more of it. And then when I had my reading with Gabrielle, she was like, oh, you're going to have like a similar year to 2015. I'm like, fuck, what's happening? This is not good. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm empowered now. I wasn't empowered in 2015, but now I know better, can set standards. So, Gabrielle, do you have anything to share on that? Because I think, yes, there is, but I don't know them, but I don't speak fluent astrology.
Yeah. So I remember your chart being, and I don't remember everyone's chart, guys, like I look at a lot. And so I think I purposely also just tried to not retain all of that because I don't want, for the sake of who I'm reading and then also for myself, for there to be chords. But I do remember your chart being very profound with the sense of it having like a presence in being known in the world for this. And even your higher self comes up as having, we've talked about this, a direct connection to different dimensions and different alien families. But to answer your question, Nicole, yes, you can. And we've never looked at Michelle's chart from this lens or perspective, but Michelle, I'm happy to do that for you. When you are familiar with certain asteroids, those asteroids will speak to Lumeria, Mintaka, Atlantis, all the different type of alien families and galaxies that are known and studied. And they will speak to that depending on where those asteroids fall in your chart and what your relation is to them. So, yeah, to answer. So, yes.
I feel like you have to take another look at it. Yeah. Okay.
Juicy. Yes. So,
okay. All
that
right,
would
Michelle,
that would make sense, to be honest. It totally would.
What do you want to give us? Where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, let's go into the Galactic War. So, I mean, there have been wars for eons. I mean, time doesn't exist. So, like, let's just like blast that right out of the water. But if time were a construct that we followed in galactic history, it's been going on forever, like different wars and different species and entities, and there's been like mass planets that have been destructed. And I think for the sake of time, I'll keep things like fairly brief, but yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can, in like 30 seconds, if you're able to, could you describe what you mean when you say time? Would you say like time doesn't exist? Because I've heard that more recently, people talking about time is an illusion, time isn't real. And I've watched enough TikToks probably to get the understanding of what they mean, but I still can't quite understand what it means. So can you just real quick for other people that might not know what that means, like what is that?
Yeah. So when we leave like this like density of a planet and like become like our spirit bodies or our higher selves, or go to some sort of like universal heaven or however people want to see it and believe it, there is an essence where like there isn't like this tick tock like the mouse run up the clock. There isn't time. And so like your soul body, your spirit body like doesn't experience time the way that humans do. And there's also a little like we could say like negative or dark manipulation on like this pressure of time, because I've also seen quite a few things of like you go back to like ancient Egypt and they lived for hundreds of years and you're like, how did they live so long? So it's been a program that has been like downloaded into our brains, our DNA, however you want to see it, that we then believe that we are on a timeline, which is a part of the matrix essentially. But in our spirit bodies, it's not a thing. We're not like, oh, I've been up here for 2 years. It's like, no, it doesn't. And you can have parallel lifetimes happening at the same time. And
is it kind of like the movie? I think it was maybe Interstellar, where he goes, and it might not be that movie, but it was like a space movie, and he has his family here and he's traveling. And then it's like, what if you go into this dimension on this planet, like 10 seconds in there is going to be like 12 years on Earth that you're going to lose. And he does it anyway. So when he comes out, his kids are like grown and he was only gone for, a minute or something. Is that kind of like what it
similar
means,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Similar. Yeah. I think it's a little like less like I would almost challenge that like 12 seconds is like they wouldn't even count seconds on another planet technically.
Yeah, I think it was like,
but
we're counting the
yeah.
seconds. You're only going to be in there for whatever, but like you're going to
Yeah.
lose out on all those years, and it's not going to feel like it to you because time is so different on this other planet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel
continue?
Sorry, real quick.
Sorry.
When you said that there's like a challenge, there's kind of like a dark at play. Do you think that's related to capitalism?
You sound like my husband.
I
Everything
think
goes back to capitalism.
I think that there's a great ploy to just keep everybody in literally in a box, in a cage, in a 9 to 5, like. And I don't really think that anything we're doing on Earth at the moment is going to solve that issue, like in terms of what we like humans think it is. At least what we're being sold as like the answer is not like from the greater good of things, because it's not exactly like actually empowering others. It's like, so kind of, but I also think it's just like that rich man's trick, and it's just like that upper elite gross percentage of people who think they run the world, and they're losing power, which is why they're trying to, pull other tricks out. But yeah.
Okay, so Galactic War, tell us about it.
Yeah. So there has been like, it's been going on forever, different races, different things. Like we could almost view it as like the way that we view humanity, where we're like, oh, like the Germans have fought against this, or France and Spain, they've always been enemies. And like you could almost see it like that if you were to expand that image into these different races, like the reptilians, for instance. Like they're very, very destructive, but they're bred for like military. Like they don't really have emotions. They are just meant to go and destroy and fight. And so they just destroy everything that they have. The Greys are very persistent with their timelines. And here again, I'll say they're not all good. They're not all bad. It's just like humans. Like we have good humans and we have bad humans. Like it doesn't mean just because I'm, whatever. We don't have to get into politics, but you know what I mean? It's like, here we go. So the Greys are very particular on their timelines, and they will, I've been shown and told and like seen this many other places too, but they used to be us and then like destroyed and kind of like genetically modified themselves like so many times and manipulated their DNA, which is pretty interesting if you look at some of our stuff that's happening in the last like 3 years, where there's like all this DNA manipulation that's occurring.
Yep.
But anyways, so that we are like, the Greys are almost like this future forward timeline of what we could be, because they've lost their ability to reproduce. So if you look at the stats on infertility, it's a little bit insane. So I have such goosebumps saying all this.
No, I'm like over here vibing, girl. Keep it up. Keep it going. We can't get enough.
Yeah. So like and that's the Greys. And so they have just like genetically modified themselves out of reproduction. They also had to, because they destroyed their like planets and the places that they inhabited, they had to go into bunkers. And this is like, again, I'll like see things, and then I'll hear things, and then I'll like go from others. So I don't necessarily like grab any information out there, or even from what I get from like ETs or different visitors. Like I don't grab it and I'm just like, this is forever truth. I'm kind of like, this is a pocket. It rings a little true. And then I look to see, and I kind of assess from like this really high, I mean, I'm a projector, so it works in that sense, but like from this high vantage point, I'm kind of like, I can actually see the commonalities. And then like, there's just this little indicator that I'm like, this is truth in this sense. But then they have no emotions. That's why they're so skinny. So the Greys have like a really big mind, but they're very, very skinny. And there's many different versions of Greys, because they've like, kind of worked themselves, but they're almost like, they have like this hive mentality. They don't have emotions. They're almost just like little worker bees as well. Same with the reptilians. And then there's different types of reptilians. There's like the Dracos, and they're like more of like like your big giant dominating. And I don't know, it's a little bit interesting. So all to say, they all want like a piece of Earth, because one, like humans are maybe gullible, or we're just like easy to kind of manipulate. Our government has sold us out. Yeah. And I forget which president it was. And this I saw on Gaia. So I haven't done too much like background research to validate or confirm. So I'll say that now, so I don't get like too much hate out there. But one of our presidents will, or like sign an agreement that like the Dracos could like have a certain percentage of people to abduct if we like got this technology, or if we like there was like some underscore trade, and it's kind of like, this is okay if you only take this many, and then we'll be okay over here. But like, aren't we doing good? You know,
this is like what they were, I think, talking about on that American Horror Story double feature, and I think they were portraying it as, well, maybe it wasn't him, Dwight Eisenhower, but like
that's what I was gonna,
that like signed it, but like him that was like really involved in it. So that was what was coming up during that season. And I just have a question. So you talked about the Greys. Do you know how many different types of aliens? Because I remember when I first heard the term the Greys, I was like, what are they talking about? And now I understand it as like what we like what Hollywood and media portrays as aliens. Like you said, like big head, skinny bodies. Like those are kind of what we think of. But there's a lot more types.
There's so many. It's almost like, it reminds me of like National Geographic, where you could watch all the episodes and you're never going to hit all the species that there are, which maybe then we derail into the hybridization program. So there's like two folds of the hybrids program. So there's like the Galactic Federation, which, no, we'll just go down hybrids, then we'll talk about the Galactic Federation. So the hybrids in the Galactic Federation sense are to bring a sense of peace to Earth, because it's almost like you have too many people trying to play for turf. So it's like, if you have the reptilians fighting, you have the Greys fighting, then you have, I don't know, let's say like the Anunnaki are still here, but then you have Center Earth, which is like the Agarthans. So like your Center Earth people or entities or whatever. We're going to refer to them as people because they are individuals to me. But so they have a program where they're kind of like crossbreeding, so to speak. And you then like would have like a Grey and a reptilian mix, or like an avian starseed mix with like a Pegasi starseed or something like that. And then they'll incarnate onto Earth, and they're envisioned for that. This would be in like a more positive light, is that then nobody will want to destroy Earth, because we kind of have like our bloodlines there. We have like heritage there. We have like people. And so we're not going to fight over it if like we're mixed blood, right? And then you have, and this gets really kind of gross and deep. And this is, I see this a lot inside of my like work that I do with clients, and it's just so gross. But there's like this hybridization program, and it's not a good one. I see it mostly run by like negative Greys and reptilians, but again, it can be multiple mixes of them. But they're breeding like humans, so like real life humans, like abducting them down and then crossbreeding them with different animals or different entities or different things. And it's just like, they're like deep underground. So like deep underground military bases, right? Like they're in the dumbs, or they're like on spaceships. They're in different little places where they're doing this. And then it's just like super gross and crooked. And it's like not necessarily for good. And it's just to see what we can do. Like it's kind of like that mad scientist aspect, versus over here with like the Galactic Federation. They're kind of like, we're going to do this in like a controlled and like more positive light. That's how I've seen those two. And I know that there are more programs than just those two. So I'll say that as well. But
they were kind of talking about that in that book that I mentioned. I think I mentioned it last time. The Hypnotist Journey of Atlantis, something like that. But how they were kind of doing crossbreeding with people and cats.
Yeah.
Or like large, like, so like large cats, right? Not like meow cats, but like lions.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
And how they were seeing like, oh, this isn't good. And they were taking them and killing them because it wasn't turning out the way they expected it. And some people might still have traces of it. They were talking about, maybe not so much anymore, but as it was kind of phasing out of evolution, right? People would maybe have tails or just different things because they were trying these experiments and they didn't go the way they anticipated they would go.
Yeah. You get a little bit too much like mad scientist going on, and then you get it in the wrong hands, and there's just, it's like a whole different, not to mention like I do believe that they don't have like consent in that side of the things. So when you don't have consent, it's never good. And
the Galactic War, I remember hearing something about how, and I can't remember the exact terms, but maybe, or not there. I can't remember. I can't remember the exact story, but it was something along the lines of they don't necessarily interfere with what's going on Earth, but they almost do to an extent because they also have a stake in what goes on here because they do. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you?
Yeah. So the Galactic Federation, it'd be like our United Nations. Now, this would be like if our United Nations wasn't corrupt. So
Is?
I'll lead with that.
I didn't know that.
But it'd be like, it's like the idea of the United Nations, right? It's like all the conglomerates, all the people, all the different species, all the different planets, the collectives, like however you want to view it. It's like all of them kind of come together and they have like this great alliance, the Galactic Federation. They oversee kind of like all activity, all planets in the universe and beyond to make sure that there's peace in the universe. And so they're like this oversee of things, but they have very specific codes and guidelines and things that they have to follow, like this universal law. And they can't actually go in and like save species or planets because of free will. So like they're very big on free will. They're very big on like, we can't actually go in and interfere. Like even some of like the very ahead of its time technology, like they can't give us the technology, but like they could show us blueprints, be like, if you could make this, but they can't bring us the materials. They can't show us like, here's the spaceship, here you go. They're just kind of like, here, we'll just like show you images or we'll show you like a blueprint. I believe they can give us blueprints, but they can't help us build it. That's like a loophole to that. And there's so much karma that people like owe Earth because of what has happened here. So like we could say with the Anunnaki, we could say with the reptilians, we could say like with the US government and all of the ways in which they've been using and still are using people to do things. And it's not to say that everyone in government is bad, but like there's people that are making decisions that are using people to not do good things. And so then with that, like what happens on Earth, like really matters for the rest of the universe. So it's why we see a lot of like Pleiadians, like our Pleiades. They're so close to Earth. It's like a very close, system. And they very much so care because if we fall and if we go under to the wrong side, like they will be next and they will fall as well. And so that's kind of why they have so much like observation. There's quite a bit of activity. So you'll see this like, which is kind of leads us into the soft disclosure, but there's so much like they're overseeing because like it really matters and they're watching, they all owe karma. And if they lose Earth, like it's kind of like this giant, which is funny, Gabrielle, it's like this chess piece, like if this falls, like we're going out. So all to say, this is kind of part of that like galactic war that's been going on. And we're kind of at this really big boiling point. You can see it in the astrology. You can see it in all these things that you're like, stuff is going to happen. Like we can't live in this matrix. The matrix is starting to fade from what I've been like shown and from what I've heard and whatever, but it's stronger over Europe and it's strongest over the US, which you can tell. You're kind of like, they can't hold it as strong, which is a whole other rabbit hole to say, but anybody, go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting because I couldn't agree more with respect to just what you're like, the astrology shows it. And I don't want to fearmonger, guys, but I do think that there is something to the repetition of cycles because history repeats itself. And I have said that I don't like the astrology between 2026 to 2028, but it is true. I haven't channeled this, but there have been other psychics and intuitives out there that have been saying since 2019 and 2020 that, and this is just a comment, this is not my opinion or even observation, but they have said that they do think that there is a possibility that if we don't kind of get our shit together from an energetic and spiritual standpoint, that humans can go extinct. And I was talking to my girlfriend who's a stock trader, and I was just talking to people who are very intelligent that are not in this space by any means. They don't do this work. They live their very 3D lives, but they're open to it. And I was asking, I was like, hey, like, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a possibility? And then they started explaining the economics, the the workforce right now and the infertility rates and the land and all of it. And they were piecing it together. And I won't go into the specifics because I can't speak to it without really connecting the dots and articulating it as well as they did. But I was like, fuck, that is such a valid point. And it makes me think, I was like, I wonder what Gaia's thoughts are about humans on Earth. How does she feel? Because it's not like we've been here since the start of Earth, guys. Like, I mean, yes, to an extent, one would argue, but humans kind of just showed up, if you think about it.
Yeah. So it's a little interesting, like, and not to fear monger, because to one degree, it's like, we all have free will, right? And so it's kind of like we can wake up and we can rise, like and I don't want it to be like this overused, like buzzing, like, if the consciousness rises enough, we'll save the planet. But really, there are so many things that, like, if we do kind of get our shit together and start to realize that we are more than just us, like we are more than even just our very simple 3D lives. And not to say we shouldn't want things more. Like, it's not to say like, it's kind of like you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Like, that is not the ticket out, guys. Like, that really is not. That's just part of a deeper enslavement, which is, also like this, Agenda 2030. Like, that's a whole thing. Like, if you don't know what that is, go look into it on like a not Google search engine and you will find it plenty.
Do you feel
what is it? Agenda 30?
Agenda 2030. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Agenda 2030.
Yeah. So it's all about this. It's like a depopulation agenda for the elite of the world to wipe out a vast majority of us, of humans. And it's already in order. Like, it's cute. They literally tell you their whole plan, which is actually a part of the Galactic Federation. This is a universal law. You have to tell them what you're going to do. So the dark, we could say, or the negative players have been doing this forever. Like, that's why you'll see movies where, like, us going to a movie and them showing you the thing, but you buying the ticket and laughing at it is your agreement. That's your consent, which is a little crazy, if I'm being honest, but there's been some, like, what was it, like War of the Worlds, right? Like, there's been some talk that was like a plan at some point for, like, there to be these big giant aliens that come and, like, absorb people and extract their blood. And so then by us going and seeing it, and this isn't to say don't go see movies, but it is to say, like, just be very conscious of what you consume and then what you're, like, ignorantly consuming, right? Like, okay, I'll go watch this, but I don't consent to this, or I'll
so
say.
Is that what self-disclosure means? Like, is that kind of what it is? Like, no? Okay. So
no, that's almost like, that's just like, we're going to that'd be like the negative players or the nefarious group saying, like, this is what we're going to do to you and you're going to like it because you came to a movie and you agreed, or because we showed you in a comedy skit, or blah, 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 right? Like, that'd be that. Soft disclosure is this, like, it goes back to what we talked about in the first part of the episode, or the other episode 19, where they did that report and they thought, if we tell the population that we've been working with aliens and ETs, they're going to lose their mind and the whole world will explode. Like, that's what they think is going to happen. So this soft disclosure is kind of like, and I'll say more on this because I've actually seen it in a ton of, like, new kids shows, which I think is quite funny because I think they're, like, priming our children for this disclosure as well. But it's where they're kind of, like, going to drip in a little bit of, like, UFO exposure, or like, oh, we found life on Mars. It's like this subtle, like, baby, it's kind of like the child glove aspect where it's like, we're going to really gently hand you information to slowly have you digest this notion that there's life that exists. And this is why you saw, like, a year and a half ago, like, there were actually government official documents that were released that says, like, yeah, ETs exist. And so, like, and it's not loud, it's not big and clear, it's not in every billboard, but it's, like, happening in this, like, underdrum level. And it's just to bring you, like, closer so that when the bomb drops, not actual bomb, I hope, but, like, when it gets a little bit more,
bomb, yeah.
the metaphorical bomb, yeah, like, more people won't lose their minds, which is, of course, it's like, oh, of course, this is why I incarnated now at this time, because I've been like, why am I here? This sucks.
that all that stuff has been, like, mind fucking me so bad. Mm-hmm. But that's the piece of it, right? It's like, it mind fucks me because I know that it's real and it can be real. And then the other part of my mind is like, no, because it's too scary to. Yeah. Ignorance is bliss. I just want to bury my head in the sand.
Ignorance is bliss. Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of that, like, give you a little bit, and even though it scares you, you'll resist it. But like, the more you see it, which I've seen in the nefarious agendas for a long time, they're just going to slowly feed you this information and like get a little bit, what is it called? Like the foot in the door. It's like that. Like, they're just going to slam something in your face and then like slam it a little bit harder. This is a little bit more gentle, but we just might see ETs like actual in this lifetime. I don't know, but a few channels have seen that. I haven't, like, I don't know, but I heard others talk about it where I'm like, dang, like that would be interesting.
So I have an observation and then a comment / question. So
go for it.
There apparently, and I think I've said this in a previous episode, where there's actual like videos of Hitler consulting and working with the aliens out there. And
what?
Yeah. And then there's also videos of the government and this, I want to say it was the 70s or the 80s, where there's like some form of acknowledgement on video form of us having alien DNA within us, just as you've spoken to, Michelle. And so I wonder, do you think us being light workers, and I think it's so fascinating that I'm a generator, you're a projector, and Nicole's a Manny Gen, and we're all having this conversation. And we're all, I think it's 8 of spades in cardology, I think is what it is, that we each have.
No, we're Jack, right?
Jack
okay.
Of spades. Yeah, I know we all have the same card in that system, and we're going to have a cardology expert on too, guys. But I think it's so interesting that light workers have their spiritual awakening, and the awakenings come in waves, because there's people that have had their awakenings like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and they're all in very specific time frames under specific transits. And I almost wonder if we kind of get our initiation and go through this awakening so that like we're prepared. Because if you think about it, if the whole world were to go through it at once, it would be anarchy and chaos, kind of like 2020 was.
Yeah, and you need like, and like, I have found this in my journey, and I can't say for you guys, but I imagine it's similar. But like, you almost need somebody that's like a little bit farther along to be like, am I fucking nuts? Or am I okay here? Oh, okay, great. Okay, great. It's like why Nikki Novo had to go and do all of her stuff before we came. Now she's like, you guys are weirder than I am. We're like, yeah, but at least you went and blazed that trail for us, because we would never be this weird if she didn't step out there. We'd just be like, here's a spirit guide. Hee ho hum.
Thanks,
like
Queen Mother.
Right? Mother. Yeah.
I have just a comment, Gabby, about what you just said right now about the videos with Hitler and the aliens. Okay. So
my doctor told me that, by the way, straight up. She has a PhD.
Okay. So 2 sides to that. One side, it could have happened, right? There could be actual videos of Hitler with aliens. So I'll just say that it could have, that could be real. The second piece is that could not be real, only because we know how much is doctored online right now, and how certain generations, especially maybe the older people, take everything that they see and believe it. Like, well, no, but I saw this video or I saw this picture, but it's like, no, but that isn't real. So anyway, so just the other piece of that. And we were watching Succession recently, and they had this video, and they were like, we want it to say this. And the editor's like, I can't like make it say that. And they're like, no, you need to edit it that way and do it. And they showed how they were able to edit this video and dub his lips to where it was also saying what was coming out. So like the words and the mouth matched, even though that wasn't what was happening. And I was like, is that true? And my husband's like, yeah. Like, how do you think things happen, right? How do you think people believe certain things? Because editing and stuff is so crazy and advanced right now. So that's just the other piece. It's like, yes, it could also be not real and doctored, and we think that it's real because it looks so real. That's all.
Yeah.
Continue.
I would think
100%
whether there's
agree
a
with that.
video or not, like our governments have been working with them, like,
Yeah.
but also it's very interesting in the realm of like, and not that we have to go down this rabbit hole for too long, but like in the realm of the Nazis and Hitler, like they never recovered his body. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And also, like, if you go to like the Third Reich trials, they only killed like 13 officers. Were there only
What's
13
that?
officers? It's like where they killed all of the like Nazi officials. They didn't kill
Oh,
very many of them. Like, you think that whole thing happened with only like and it may be more than 13, you know what I mean? But like, it was very small. And so there's like this huge pocket of them that just got shipped off to Argentina and did a ton of research, and like we're working for them. And then like that's really close to Argentica, and like nobody talks about what's down there. Like, that's just like how do all the governments, all the countries in the world, like just blindly agree that that's just like undisclosed, we will never go there? Bullshit.
never thought
Like,
about that. So there was a TV show, and I remember it was kind of touching on that, how a lot of Nazi higher up officials, doctors, things like that, what happened to them. And my husband used to watch it, and he's like, yeah, like what happened to all these people after the war ended? He's like, the theory is that a lot of them got sent maybe out here to America, right? Because we needed
yeah,
doctors and things
we
like
did
that,
hire
or
some of
just
them.
shipped off to different countries because they were intelligent, and we still needed their intelligence and their information. And so, right, where are they? Yeah, where are they?
Where did they
Antarctica.
go? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's like, and this I've seen on Gaia. I have not personally seen this. I have not like double checked with my guides. I've not done anything with that, but there's like a very big group of Nazis who like went and were trying to inhabit the moon. Like, a lot of them like left Earth even. And like, I mean, there's like the Antarctica wars, and there's like a whole bunch of like, there's been like reptilians, and it's just, that's so, I don't know. It just gets really gross and dark.
I've been
Which
wanting to sign up for Gaia, and you're making me want to sign up. Gabby, we need to add that to the budget. To the podcast budget. We don't get any money in, but we spend a lot of money going out.
Gaia is
Tax
great. Yeah, Gaia is great. And I'll say it's just like kind of like this. It's just like people's opinions, people's experience. It can get really, really dark. So it's just like, to all viewers, there's really light stuff on Gaia and it's super great, and there's really dark stuff. So just check your emotional regularity and protection before you watch it, because otherwise you're just going to be more scared. I use it to validate what I've seen and the energy clearing I do for people, where we go into like we go through portals and we go to these caves, and then we're releasing souls. And I'm like, why were these souls here? And I dig deeper, and I'm like, oh my God. And I see all these huge, nasty things. And then it's like 3 months later, I get Gaia and I'm watching this video. I'm like, oh, that's what I saw. Oh my. And then I'm just like, okay, this has to ring true. But anyways, endorsement for Gaia. I don't get paid, but no.
You should become an affiliate.
I should.
Us, guys. So, okay. Unless Nicole has questions, but I would love to hear about your abduction story and just a little bit about that and that initiation in its own right. And then also just I know we talked back in March about repetition of cycles and being like, hey, like, you're going to maybe experience a similar year as you did in 2015 in 2024. So yeah, just let us know what you feel comfortable sharing, because we're all about it.
Yeah, we can dive into like the abductions, and it happened more than once. And so I'll share kind of in the progression of what I knew at what time, and then how it kind of like reverse engineered, like all made sense. And so I maybe did talk about this in episode 19, but either way, I'll share again. But it was like, I was very, very young, and there's 4 girls. So I have 3 sisters. 2 of us shared rooms. The other 2 shared the other room. Old farmhouse. Like, we were on the very top level. There's like a basement, a main level, and the one we were in. And, I never slept as a baby, like ever. My mom was like, you just laid there and just were staring up. Like, it was the weirdest thing. I didn't know what was wrong with you. You would never fucking sleep. She does not swear. I swear she does not. She's like, you would never sleep ever. And so like, there's that, like, I already coming in as a child, never slept, but I also, well, it's another story. But then I would have these like night terrors is what they called them. And so there were so many of them that they just kind of quit. Like they didn't know what to do and they didn't know how to like save me or protect me, or like they just honestly were like, you're having really bad dreams. But what would happen? We'd go to bed. I don't know if our parents put us to bed or what they did. We'd go to bed and I'd be sleeping and then I'd wake up in the basement screaming bloody murder. It's like an old farmhouse. Like you can't like step, walk, creak. Like you can hear all the doors like, you know, it's like every single one of them. So to have gone as far as I would have as a young child and, you know, so it's like, that was always just weird. Like these night terrors, I was so scared. I always wanted to sleep with my parents. Like they were like, why do you want to sleep in our bed? Like you are in third grade this year, too old. And I'm just like, I'm so scared to sleep. I just need to lay here wide awake. I won't sleep. Don't worry. I don't sleep, but I'll lay here wide awake with you because this is how I feel safe. And so like that had just been a pattern and no one ever knew anything about it. Like it was whatever. Inside like elementary school, I remember being very scared of like anything flying over my head. So like grew up in the country. We had 30 acres. We were outside all the time. And like, if a plane would fly by, I'd be like, where's the tree? I got to run to the garage. Like, this is weird. Like something's happening. Like I was just scared and paranoid for no reason. Like we didn't have, you know, now knowing what we do know, it's just interesting. And then like, I think it was maybe in third grade, wanted to like have like, I was so into the aliens, like so into the X-Files. I like loved all of it. Should not have been watching it as a second, third grader. Like what the heck, but was, and it was just so like, it just like there was like this, I don't know, appetite for it and like deep appetite. Like it was so bizarre. And then, I don't know, just always was weird, but like kind of dimmed that. Definitely had like sexual traumas that also dimmed light, never talked about it. So it's like nobody was asking me anything, but we also weren't talking about it. And then, let's see, when I first moved into my house, like and I'd had weird, like, we'd see weird things falling from the sky. We'd like one time, this was, I think in high school, my mom and I saw this giant green like flash and it was like huge green flash. And it was just like, we were just at the end of the driveway, like coming home from soccer or something. And it was just like, well, that was weird, you know? And then like nothing. I remember being super spooked at Signs when that movie came out. And that, I don't know if you guys remember that one, but it was like middle of a cornfield, crop circles, like these, they looked kind of reptilian, like now that I look back and know more. So I'm like, that's also interesting. So I'll just say that's all I ever had. Night terrors, big fear of random stuff I didn't know about, and like this insane desire to know more about aliens and like talk about them and teach everybody, but nobody wanted to go there with me. And so we just wouldn't. Then we moved into my first house that my husband and I bought, and it was super weird, very spiritually active. We had all those portals underneath. Definitely, like, if we retrospect, go back in my astrology charts, Gabby, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is insane. So, you know, another day. But inside of that, then there was just so much weird stuff happening that then I sought out energy healing. So someone had come into my life that was using an energy healer. Like, it's just these beautiful, perfect, like, pockets. Like, had they not had their spiritual awakening before me, I wouldn't have known where to go. So it's like, okay. And she sits me down. She's like, okay, like, you've never felt safe. I'm like, nope, never. She's like, you never can sleep. Nope, never. Like, all of these things. She just read me like a book, just like we do with our people, which is so fun. And then she's like, okay, I don't know how you're going to take this. I'm like, lay it on me. Like, what could you possibly tell me that's going to break my heart after all these years of things that have happened? And she's just like, so you've been abducted by aliens. I don't really know like how she knew at what point, but then I was like, say more. And then she could literally pinpoint. She's like, you were these ages. Like, this is what happened. And I was like, yes, that's when I had the night terrors. That's when I was scared of planes. That's when I would count things in two. That's when, like, everything just like tick, 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 tick made sense. And all the information she gave me about it at that time was like, they were bringing you up to see if you could like pass their test and you failed. That's all she'd tell me. And I'm like, okay, like, I at the time didn't really think much of it. And then really once I started getting more into this work, more into like the ETs, my sister started to share with me like, yeah, I remember like there were nights where the whole house would be this green light. We were frozen. She's like, we couldn't move. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And then I had, like, you know, if, like you get dreams where like they're memories, but they're they're totally things that have happened in memories. And then
Lemurian Atlantis.
Yes. Yep. Totally like that. So I had some of those flashbacks of like being in my bunk bed. And so this is like, I mean, we got bunk beds when I was in 5th grade, and I know that there were happenings like even younger than that. So that's interesting to me, but we were in our bunk beds. And this is when these were the experiences where they were taking me, but they were trying to get my sister. So like they'd already been done with me. They were over that, and they were trying to get my little sister, and I wouldn't let them. So then they were punishing me. But I could see like 3 of them, like they were tall grays, very long, skinny fingers with like bulbs on the end of them. And then they were just like, and they don't speak. It's like all, telepathy. Yep. And it was just like, they were just so pissed at me because I wouldn't let them have her. And I don't know how I was able to like protect her, really. That was interesting. But what I do know, so those were dreams and rememberings I had. And so they were like little snippets. And then I had a spiritual hypnosis session where I got like a lot more of what happened. And that if you've never had one, or like a QHHT or spiritual hypnosis,
so
like
bad.
you'll get what you're ready for. So know that. But they're so interesting. And I had gone with the intention of like, I need to know more. I'm ready to know more about these abductions. Like it's consuming me. It's running me. I just need to know. And inside of that, what they were doing, this would be in my younger years, not when they were mad at me for not letting them get at my sister. In my younger years, they were bringing me up. So it wasn't like underground bases. It was like a ship above. And then they were torturing people and seeing if I could make them stop. And I wasn't able to, but it was horrendous. Like I won't go into details of what they were doing to these like people. They weren't my loved ones. They never threatened my loved ones. I've heard that a lot with like the Dracos or the reptilians. They get into your brain and they're just like, here's images, and they'll show you images of like them destroying your family and killing you if you don't agree to whatever they want you to do. That was not my experience, but they would bring me up, and then they'd have someone in like, and it looked just like a movie, like this like medical chair with this big light. And then they were just doing stuff. And I was like on the outside, not able to touch, but they're just like, can you stop this with your mind? And I, to some degree, like I had this twisted sense of like, wow, why do I feel like I should have been able to do something about it? Like I was almost like, oh, like I failed. I'm not good enough. For a long while I had that. And then I was just like, I don't think they'd have sent me home if I'd have been able to control that. Like, I don't know, like maybe I just didn't know enough back then. So that is like what I will share about those experiences. And honestly, I think they were just fucking with me when I wouldn't let them have my sister. They'd just bring me up and show me like stuff that they had done to people. They weren't showing me live torture or anything like that, but they were just showing me. And then they'd, drop me, and I don't know what was up with that. Now that I know better and have spiritual protection and have cleansing and have like, my divine sovereignty a little bit more established, I have been like taken up and probed up where I've like left my body, but it's beautiful experiences. Like it's past life rememberings, or it's like showing me different things that I'm supposed to like activate, or different key codes. Like a lot of people will talk about like key codes and light activations. Like it'll be like more of that sort of experience. So it's interesting to say, like, I don't know. And then this is the other interesting aspect. My kids have been having night terrors. And so like, this is where it gets a little like scary for people, because I had felt for my 5-year-old, I was like, he's being taken. Like, this is so weird. He's so terrified. Like he's waking up screaming bloody murder. Like he's not here. Like he's so not here. And then I had a session with Camilla, and she was like, yeah, Sawyer's being abducted. He's being taken. And his wasn't bad, but he didn't remember his contract. So he could get out of his contract. His were the grays as well. Mine were the grays. His were the grays. But he didn't remember he was a part of like this DNA study. So it's super interesting to like divulge into the details. But also now that we kind of know, and I can explain to him a little bit more, or revoke his contract or whatever, we didn't revoke it because it hasn't really been happening now that I've set like new parameters, because I have the tools to say like, this is how and when and why you can or cannot do X, Y, Z. But yeah, what questions do you guys have, or what? I
have 2 questions. One,
yeah.
When you said that because you said that they took you when you were younger, maybe, but then you talked about being older and then you felt yourself leaving your body. So my question is it your physical body, or like for your son too? Is it the physical body? Is it the consciousness? Or like, is there a separation where like your body stays in bed, or your son's body, whoever's body stays in bed, but your being is what's taken? Or how can it be both?
So
I guess
it can be both. When I was really little, I think that my actual physical body was leaving only because I was like, I ended up in the
waking up
basement,
somewhere else. Yeah.
standing up, screaming. Like,
Right.
I'm like, that just seems super weird. With my son, I've been like, but it is interesting because we're not, when it's happened, like we're not in the room, and time doesn't exist. So there is to say, like, I don't know if his body's leaving or not. I don't think it is. There were 2 nights where he ended up somewhere that he wasn't. And we're like, how did he get off of his bunk bed and here without making a single sound and be wrapped up in his blanket? Like, both my husband and I were like, this is weird. Like, this is way weird. Like, I don't know. But there were, in his experiences, like, and this is just because I had felt like this is what's happening. It's not like it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. I was just like, I'm here, and he would never come back. But then I'd say, like, follow my voice to come home, and he would. And that was how I got like my 5-year-old to actually come back and like be in this reality. And then he was still terrified. And then one of the times, I think it was like one of the worst times for him, where like he's freaking out. He's like, no, 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 no. Or like, don't get my face. This hurts. Ow, ow, ow. Like, there was all these things happening, and it's so freaking heartbreaking. But I remember at one point, I don't remember what I exactly did, but he had shared with me, like, once he came back, he's like, Mom, that was too quick. You brought me back too quickly. Okay. I didn't know. What does that mean?
I wasn't done.
Yeah. Like, and I think it was just like wherever he was to like come back. Like, I think that was the too quick. So that was super trippy. But like in that instance, when I'd like bring him back, his body was in my arms, but like his whole spirit was somewhere else. Like, and but he was having like the physical reactions to things.
Right. That's so interesting. Yeah. And it's almost obviously so scary as a parent to imagine that that's happening to your son. But also, if that is going to be happening to him or to any child, like, no better parent to have as a child than somebody who can support them and can work with them and can do the protections and call them back and do all those things. Because I know I wouldn't be, I'm not equipped to do any of those things. So yeah, it's a good thing that like he has you to help him work through those things. Yeah. My second question is, you mentioned key codes and light codes or light activations. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that is? Because again, I've heard these terms. I don't really quite understand them.
Yeah. So the way that I understand, like, light activations are probably the easiest to understand, where they're just kind of like, it's almost like a little jolt of energy with information that then like come and are activated within your light body. So it's almost like an electrical charge. It's not an electrical charge, but it's like the easiest way to see it. It's just like, it's like this light information. It's going to come into your light body and then like invoke insights, invoke wisdom, invoke like new expression, new information. So that's like how I've seen some light activations. Like, I think that's the easiest way to present them. Key codes those are more in our like, it'd be more like in our DNA as I see them. And they're different, like sequencing, different. Gabrielle, do you know anything about this? Do you know anything about key codes?
Are they related to the gene keys in any capacity?
I'm not sure. When you had said that earlier, I was like, I got to look into this.
Yeah. I just kind of started looking into that and doing my research about that. And it's my understanding of the gene keys, and this is very minimal, guys, so don't come for me. It's almost kind of like your imprint as to like the shadow and the light of what you're supposed to learn in this lifetime over the course of your life. And they're one of the modalities in human design. So human design is composed of the gene keys, of the graph, which I don't remember the name of at this time, astrology, and the I Ching. So I think I sent this podcast to you yesterday, Nicole. If not, I meant to, about us learning the gene keys, because we need to learn each one of those components at some point to really fully understand, I think, human design, because you get that much more out of the modality. But I was like, when you said that, Michelle, I was like, I wonder if they're related, because all the systems in some capacity are.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll see and can like access or view different people's key codes. And then I recently read the Sophia code, which is like, you've read this or
I
know
haven't
of
read it.
it?
I'm familiar with it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so she talks about all these key codes, which basically unlock certain parts of our like divine DNA, our sovereign divinity, and bring us like back to source, back to the creator, back to God, back to goddess, like whoever and however you want to view it. Like those key codes activate and kind of bring us, it's like a sense of remembering. It's kind of how I understand them. But they're very, very specific to like DNA activation.
I really
have a
want some light
question.
activations.
Well,
How do I get those?
that was the observation I wanted to say, or at least comment, Nicole, is when you start getting these, they're upgrades, I guess is another word
They're
for
totally
them. Your
upgrades.
body,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, upgrades. Your body takes the hit. So that's why you're out for a couple of days. You're like, I'm dead to the world, because your body's literally trying to catch up with these new upgrades and activations. So like once you do the healing, the emotional healing and this work, like if you're tired, that is literally why.
I want that though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
remember
you
when
can
said
just
that?
I don't want to be
I had a
abducted, Gabby.
migraine.
That's different. I don't want to be abducted. I just want the activations. Put me out for a couple days. I'll stay in bed and watch TV. It's like, that sounds great to me. Where do I sign up? Is there a
It's an ideal day for
subscription?
her.
Like, can I get it once every 3 months? Like, what's,
Yes,
how
you
do I
this
get
is
this?
adorable. You can, yeah.
You
But
can.
it's actually funny. It's you can get it through different people's like meditations. Like I will say, like I can send
Ooh,
you my, I just did like an inner light one. I'll send it to you. Like you could see like that
yes.
will be like an energetic upgrade, a light activation in and of itself. But that's also like it's part of my modality. It's how I transmute
Mhm.
is through
Mhm.
that.
Oh, I love
So
that.
yeah, I'll send that
Okay.
to you.
I have a final question. How
Mm-hmm.
do you protect yourself now from these experiences? So it can be beautiful and obviously different than your initial experience in 2015, because I'm sure our listeners have that question. But
Mm-hmm.
also, I know that for myself, selfishly, I'm asking that because I am going to make contact with them at some point. And I'm not trying to have my body fucked with in that way.
Yeah. So this
Unless
is
they're hot.
unless they're hot. I mean,
Then she's
hey,
down.
galactic sex. I mean, ET sex. It's a whole thing. Like you could totally have cosmic,
Yep.
but um, all to say. So I will say this is part of where it's like that ignorance is not bliss, because then you don't know what you're working with and you don't know what to say yes or no to. So in that regard, it's like the first stone to pick up would be like, this is the thing. Great. And then it's really like inside. So what I'll do is just kind of like set an intention, like either when I cleanse myself or when I bubble myself, or certainly with the boys, like at night, I'll just, we like get rid of their yuck from the day. We cleanse their energy, refuel their energy, kind of do like our energetic hygiene. Then I'll bubble them. And then I'll just kind of add like this extra layer that either, and it depends on how often my 5-year-old gets visited a lot, but it's like his first incarnation here. And he was like, had so much clout in the galactic realm that like he just gets visited because people are like, what's that dude up to now? Like, what's he up to? This is so cool. Like, okay, like he needs to sleep. He never sleeps, which is also interesting. But
Mm.
and so I'll just kind of put like either a layer of like invisibility can work on some people. Like you can't find me. Like if I put this cloak of invisibility, like a little Harry Potter action in there, or you just, it's like you just know that it exists. So you're like, this is not going to happen. Anything that isn't for my highest and most potent good that will be a good experience, like is not welcome tonight. Like only that of which is for my
Mm.
highest activations, highest good. Now I've kind of, and I know that a few other people who one are open to this, but are like galactic historians, cosmic channels, like they kind of can sense when like there's an activation coming or an experience coming, which is what I experienced like 2 months ago when I felt like my whole body leaving, which is probably why my body stayed, is because I set this lens, but I just felt funky. Like I was like, something's going to happen tonight. And I was like, this doesn't feel like this is the boys. This feels like this is attached to me. And so then I was just like, am I open to this or not? Like, that's the first question to ask. Like, do I want this or not? And I was like, actually, I'm open to it. And like, not but, and it has to be a good time. It has to be a good experience. It cannot freaking mess with my psyche. It has to be pure. It has to be divine. And then you only call that in. So that would be like, if you feel it coming on, ask yourself those two things. Do I even want this tonight, or do I need sleep? Because you can just say, I actually need sleep tonight. I don't have time for this. The other thing that I have done is like assign a guide or an archangel. Like Archangel Michael loves children. So like, and not in a creepy way, but in like a beautiful way. So it's like, bring him in and just be like, you're the gatekeeper tonight. Like, if they don't check the spiritual ID, like, you're the bouncer, man. Like, they don't get to come in if they're going to mess with them. If they don't sleep well and they wake up crabby, I'm coming to you. And so it's like, you just call on him to be that, like, almost governance for the kids. And not that they don't have their own free will that could step over him, but you're just like, certainly when they're so little, like, we are their protectors. So we're like, okay, how can I do this? And then I realized that I was spending so much energy protecting my kids at night that I wasn't sleeping. Not that I sleep much anyways. I still don't. But then I was like, I can call on Archangel Michael. I trust him, because some people have really bad experiences with their guides turning on them. So if you don't feel comfortable with your guides, or you don't like quite trust them, like, ask your higher self, ask archangels, like, ask your past loved ones, like, just do some sort of thing that just helps them, and just know, like, we're not open to this right now. Just the same as we learn, like, office hours, when your guides can connect with you.
Archangel Michael is like the busiest.
He's the shit, right? He's
a gangster. Yeah.
He is so busy, because I mean, how many times do people call on him? And that's, yeah.
But when time doesn't exist, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Because he could be in all sorts of time, space realities, which is also how, like, ETs can travel so quickly, because one, they know it's like 92 light years away, but they just can, like, envision we're at point A, we want to get to point B, and then you just fold it. And you just, like, envision yourself there, and they're just there. They teleport.
Well, the other thing that came up that fucked with my head during that recent whistleblower. Did you watch that interview yet? I think we talked about it last time. Do you know what I'm talking about? With David Grush, the government official that came out and talked about a lot of the alien or UFO type things. Anyway, what they were talking about is how maybe these things are happening in the same. Was it the same dimension, Gabby? Or no, it was like the same time, but like a different dimension of our time. So they're not necessarily traveling in from space. Parallel universe. Mm-hmm. So It's like, no, they're already kind of here with us, and then they just like hop on in. That kind of fucked with me too.
Well, and that's like, it's so interesting because we're in the 3D, and then there's so many dimensions that, like, there are things, like, if we saw what was like here and on the 7th dimension, like, a lot of people would lose their minds, because they'd see the tree spirits, they'd see the monsters, they'd see the dragon. I mean, well, there's not really, either way, all to say, if you got to a high enough dimension, you could see the dragons, and like, that scares a lot of people. Yeah. So like, there's a lot of things that are happening on that density, which is also where it comes into like vibration and frequency. If you can raise your vibration, raise your frequency. So I have like a Healy device that helps me with the frequency aspect of things, but I'll also like envision our energy and frequency rising at night, because negatively polarized beings like don't want to waste their energy trying to bring you down. They're just going to go find a different, like, they're bottom feeders. They do not come up here. Like, they don't waste their dang time. Like, they don't have energy for that.
Low bearing fruit is what they need. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like I could talk to you forever. Gabs, do you have any more questions before we?
No, I think
comments.
I mean, at some point you have to come back and go into your other area of expertise, because there's a lot. But to echo,
Michelle's going to be a third member of the pod.
I know, right? No, thank you so much. This was amazing, mind blowing.
So good.
I have to integrate and process and prepare for my alien contact in some capacity. And yeah, we're just so grateful to have you and to know you.
And you can have like a beautiful ET and or like alien experience in just your metaphysical, like, meditation space. Like, it's easiest to come through in our sleep, because our guards are really low, like like there's so much blood flowing to our pineal gland or third eye that it's like, oh, okay, here we are. But, so you can set some of those standards, because I've seen some come through and read. Well, I see a ton come through in readings, but before I knew what I was doing, I would see some come through in readings, and I'm like, oh, I cannot tell this person about that. But I'm like, what do I do with you? And I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like, here we go. Like, so it doesn't have to be like weird and scary, because now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. That was so good.
Thank you.
I can't wait to edit these because I get to listen to it again. Like mind blowing.
Thank you.
Michelle, anything you want to share? Any last plugs?
I will say, like, when it comes in regards to like the kids being kind of like messed with on like a spiritual level, like in their sleep state, in their psyche, really trust your gut inside of like, this feels like more than just a bad dream. This feels like more than just the food they ate last night. Like, really trust your mom intuition on that, and then seek out help where you need it. Like, I would not be this far if I did not seek out energy healing, if I did not seek out readers. Like, so don't be too like proud to, it's scary to know the things, but I promise, like, when you actually start to work with it and you see some resolute, like, you're going to have tools. So everyone that works with me gets a shit ton of tools, because on one hand, like, I want you to be empowered and have all your own tools so that I have more room for people who don't know what they're doing. So that's one thing I teach my people away, but it's a good thing, because I want to empower everybody to have their tools so that they can deal with the most pressing things. And then if it gets really weird and above your flight wings, then you just come back and you book another session. So that's what I would say.
Can you share a little bit about what your sessions are again for people? And then we'll include everything in there. But because you said, like when people come to you, they leave with a lot of tools. So can you just remind everybody what it is that your readings are and what those might look like?
Yeah, so I do intuitive soul readings, and within that, it's like your standard soul reading. We'll read your chakras, your path, your purpose. We will definitely, like, if you're open to it, which I have in my like intake questions, like starseed stuff, different like ET realms, like they will come, I promise. So just put in there that you're open to it, and I'll share a lot about it. Those are really fun. I have an intuitive soul readings specifically for moms. So it's kind of like when moms feel lost and they don't know what they're doing anymore, like that one is one to book there. You could book either. And then my intuitive child codes reading is all about, like, it's for you as the parent, but it's all about your child, and then how you can kind of better serve their energy, keep their frequency high. This is going to be like their physical, their energetic, like it'll be all the spiritual components, but there's other very interesting things where it's like the direction of their bed is going to matter, or like you need this crystal and that's going to help them sleep better and keep away like negative spirits or something like that. So that would be the one if you have kiddos. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, I can't wait to have you back.
Can't wait to come back.
It's like, what are we going to talk about next time? I'm already like planning it out, because I mean, yeah, we've gone over an hour and I was like, I don't even care. Like, this is so good. I just want to like hear more. So good. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, check out all of Michelle's information in the show notes if you want to book with her. If you want to just check out her social media, because she always has some really cool stories and she's always dropping little nuggets of wisdom. So definitely check her out. And anything else, Gabs?
Nope. I'm over here processing. Nope. That was awesome.
Gabby's integrating. Okay, guys, we'll see you for episode 21. And sadly, Michelle will not be here, but she'll come back.
Yeah, I'll come back.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. See you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.